This is my husband, Scott Kaufman, and hi. And he works with men and women, helping them make their lives better.
And couples.
And couples, actually. Yeah, do a lot of couples work.
Yeah.
And he also has a car brokering business.
I do.
Yeah.
do.
So you want to ask me some questions? I want to ask you some questions too.
Okay.
I wanted to talk a bit about the men's work you do today, but we can get into that. Because I've seen, obviously, it's been a through line in your life pretty much as long as I've known you. And I think it's something that has been really powerful for you that a lot of people could benefit from knowing more about.
Yeah, there's a real benefit for men getting into an intimate space with other men. Intimate meaning where you get real, where you take your masks off, where you put your shtick down and you get raw. Sometimes it gets edgy. You learn how to move through conflict. You learn how to get vulnerable. Tough questions are asked. You get put under the spotlight. It's a place for men to not hide, which men, from my experience, and I have the experience of being a man and working with a lot of men and sitting in a number of these circles now, men tend to hide. We don't bring our shit to people, especially our women. And in a lot of cases, it's healthier for us to bring our shit to men than to our female partner, in that some of the shit could make our partner feel unsafe. And so if we have a place to go where we can let these things out and not, I don't want to say burden, but burden adjacent our partner with what's going on with us, that's really valuable. And the conflict resolution is hugely valuable. You can take that into your work. You can take that into your relationships with people. And also, I've noticed a trend where men don't necessarily want to just talk about, sports and the weather and cars and, the things that we're in our culture typically accustomed to talking about. We want to get real. We want to talk about, what it feels like to be a man, which can be extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah.
As it can be uncomfortable for anyone, it can be extremely uncomfortable for a man.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead. Hang on. I got to put my phone on Do Not Disturb. I screwed up. Hang on.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So I was just wondering, was that something that you knew you needed or wanted in your life when you found it?
No.
And how did you get to it?
No, my first men's team situation is actually kind of a legendary story in men's work, because I showed up after my first psychedelic ceremony. I immediately became friends with Jamie, and he's like, "You got to come to this men's circle." And I went to the men's circle, and I'm all blown open from my first ceremony, and I'm experiencing love and connection and oneness for the first time, and I'm gooey. And I walk into the meeting, and one of the men is just beating the shit out of another one of the men because he's not holding his commitments and he's not being accountable. No.
Clarify, it's not.
No, they're not. No, but they're just wrestling him.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't want to be a part of this. This is ridiculous. Yeah. And I didn't go back for a year. I didn't go back for a year. And then finally, I ended up in a ceremony with a bunch of the men that were there that night. And we developed relationships, and I got to see sort of the reason why, which I didn't know the backstory. I didn't know the context. And the benefit that actually gave to that man. And so it ended up being a year after my first one. And then I ended up joining that men's circle, and it was very valuable for me.
Yeah. And so aside from like having that place to go where you could have that safe space, what else has there been for you? And has it changed over the years as you've grown?
Yeah. Camaraderie, community, really community. One of the beauties of it is that, you know, the law of attraction kind of tells you that which is attracts unto itself, right? So in this case, that's not exactly true, which is great because it's people from all different walks of life. There is a part of it that is that in that everyone that's in that circle is seeking to be better. But these are like, you know, lawyers and like different kinds of people than me. Like, you know, there was a dude that was starting a video something or other. I mean, there was all kinds of different people. There was producers, and they were all different than me. And at the time, I was working at the car dealership, and I'm just like this car guy, you know. So it was but I got to see the mirroring from these different perspectives, which was really valuable because the thing about men also is we tend to believe our own bullshit. We tend to believe the story that we're telling ourselves about ourselves. And I battle that today, you know, and so when I go to these meetings and we're getting real and calling each other out on the bullshit story and really asking the question of, hey, how's that story working for you? Because it's a choice. That's a conversation that in my opinion, is better had between men and men than from a partner to a man, because from a partner to a man, there's a tendency to get very defensive if that conversation comes up.
Yeah. And you don't see the defensive-ness among the men?
Sure. But then you've got 8 other men that are like, listen here, bitch. If we're all saying that you're fucking up and you're saying I'm not, there's a real strong possibility that you're fucking up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And
I mean, that's cool. It's interesting that men seem to be able to be that direct and come out the other side.
Well, men are more simple than women. The masculine is more simple than women. And so, the reason why it's tough between a man and a woman from my experience is that men are outmatched by women. Women are typically more sophisticated, and there's wounding really from childhood. I've done a few social experiments with my coaching clients where I ask them to try to recall when they were in grade school, and in grade school, let's just say like 4th grade. Yeah. In 4th grade, from my experience and from the overwhelmingly the experience of the men that I coach. When you looked at the girls in the class versus the boys in the class, and the teacher would give you an assignment, the girls in the class had neat handwriting. They were sitting still. They were learning. They were excited about it. And the boys were bouncing off the walls, just slamming their head into the desk and eating pencils and all the things that boys do. Yeah. Yeah. Well, all the boys internalized that as the girls are smarter than boys. And so there's like a real understanding that I've seen where boys are very clear, men are grown up boys are very clear that women are smarter than them. And so they feel outmatched when there's conflict with women. But if it's a bunch of rambunctious boys who used to eat pencils sitting in a circle, there's a commonality. Right. And so with that commonality comes, okay, this guy might be a completely different kind of guy with me, but he used to be a pencil eater. So there might be something here. Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Immediately diffuses the possibility of defensiveness. Cool. In terms of like, if people want to do this type of work, or if they wanted to start a group or find a group, is there do you think a group of men can just get together and start a group, or what would one do? Well, the short answer is no. The long answer is there's training. There's leadership training. While these men's circles are really set up to be equal, there needs to be leadership. There needs to, with any group, eventually leadership rises. And if you get a bunch of men together that don't know what they're doing, they could lead each other into a bed of snakes. So there needs to be eyes on it.
Yeah. Hi. We're saying hi.
Hi. It does a lot of good if you're starting a team to find somebody that's been on a team and just ask them to mentor the team, mentor whoever's leading the meeting. There are standards, there are terms, there are rules of engagement. Otherwise, it turns into the Lord of the Flies, which is very, very easy to do. It's
so
very easy to go there.
Creating a strong frame, and I've seen the way you guys hold the frame, which is basically like, this is when we're showing up, this is how we're showing up, right? And this is what we're accountable for. And to me, that's like, I see it in the work that I do too. The frame is a hugely important piece of the puzzle, and holding it with reverence. And it seems like that's the same for this type of work.
Yeah. I mean, the beauty of it is that it's free. And so, it's a volunteer thing. So the entry point is, that you're here for it. You're not here to receive a check. There's no result. It's clear. It's just about process, which as far as my work goes, is very much what I coach, is, to move your awareness off of results into process, make the process the result. And then you change your reality. And being in a men's circle helps you change your reality. It helps you change how you communicate with men and women, how you communicate with yourself. It really does. It creates safety to get really, really uncomfortable.
Yeah. How do you see changing? How did you say it? Changing or making the process, the result changes your reality, or what? I don't know how you said it, but how do you see that?
So when you see someone buy in so the process for most of us looks like changing our context, changing how we show up to life, changing where we put our focus. And we focus on what's right in front of us versus what's 2 miles down the road. Because if you focus on what's 2 miles down the road, you're actually focusing on the death of the process, and in turn focusing on death. If you're deeply focused on what's right in front of you, and even if it's something you don't like to do, but you're doing it as if you love to do it, the results take care of themselves. So go ahead.
I was just going to say, for me, that's really a big part of what I work with within myself and with people that I'm mentoring, guiding, is that the essence of the journey is always in the end, and I can get what I want by embodying it now, because what I want is the feeling and the way of experiencing life. And then, all the other things that I think I want may or may not come based on what I'm embodying, depending on if it's actually aligned for me or not. But taking my guesswork out of it and letting go of what I think it is, and focusing over there, and actually focusing on what's shifting in me, how am I showing up, how am I feeling in this moment, is I've seen be really powerful for myself and people that I work with too. But it sounds just like a different way of saying that.
Well, also, you're one of the smartest people I've ever met in this particular arena. Like, you understand how valuable context, meaning the way you show up and the way that you vibrate out, how that generates what comes back in, really better than probably anybody I know. And even when you get kicked off, you kind of don't take yourself all that seriously. You'll like run around and kick shit in the backyard and like be a weirdo. And I've noticed, I work with a lot of alphas, and the way that you would present it, they would be like, huh? And so what I do is I kind of just I basically steal everything that you teach, and I turn it, and I turn it into speaking in street, in homie, in like, throw a bunch of like fucks and shits, and then they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. Because with alphas, there's, in order for an alpha to really take something in, from my experience, there actually has to be a little bit of conflict. There has to be a little bit of push, knowing that like, I'm going to be the bigger bully, but I'm bullying you for good. Like I'm going to hold you here. I'm not going to let you wiggle out of this.
That's interesting. It's funny that you say that about going back to like not taking myself too seriously when I get kicked out. And by that, he means just like when I get out of balance, when I'm like thrown off, when I'm not feeling good. I never thought about it that way, but that is something that helps me find my balance more quickly, and always has, is really like not taking myself too seriously, and like actually having fun in that place when I'm off.
Yeah, I mean, well, you and I have talked ad nauseum. Actually, you brought the row your boat to me, and I turned it into I took it, because this is what I do. I steal everything you do, and then I make it my own.
Well, row your boat is Abraham Hicks.
Is it? Well, I kind of messed with it. In that I see it as, row your boat, meaning you're living within your body, and so that's the boat, and then you're in motion, so you're rowing, and then you're moving gently down the stream, so you are staying in alignment, and you're not in resistance to what is, and merrily is your context. It's how you show up. Life is but a dream. So the thing is that there's no real empirical evidence that any of this is real, because it's a dream state, because you're experiencing it through your senses. So there's no real way of, and if you recognize that it's just a dream, you wouldn't take it that seriously. You wouldn't take any of it that seriously. Now we do, right? The Vedics would call what we're living in Maya, and Maya means illusion. And the way it's written in the Bhagavad Gita is that effectively we're living in a play. This is a play. And so it's not to be taken seriously. Well, at the end of row your boat, let's just assume, because every river's got to come to an end, or every stream, right? Let's just assume there's a waterfall, and you're going to go off the waterfall, because at the end of the day, you're going to die, right? Well, you're going to die. This is true, right? Yeah. So how do you want to be in that boat? You want to experience yourself while you're in the boat. You don't want to be thinking about the end of it, because the end of it is the waterfall. You want to be right here, right now, present in your body, on your breath, looking at the beautiful trees, looking at the stream, looking at the insects, all of it. You want to be really fucking loving. Merrily. Yeah. And merrily ultimately is the choice. Yeah. That's the choice. And I'm a failure 80% of the time of it, but I'm always working towards it.
That's why you can teach it.
Yeah. Well, I can teach anything that I'm teaching is because I've failed at it 5,000 times.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. It's interesting. I've, at times when I've found myself rushing around, or especially if I'm like going to yoga, or going to like, when I used to go to Agape a lot, which is a spiritual church, or something where you're going to like really connect and do the opposite of rush. And I'm like, wait, this is defeating the purpose. I'm not rushing. I'm not doing that. I'm just going to like be in the process of going to the thing, because that's just as much of the thing as the thing. It's just that when I go enter the yoga studio or enter the church or whatever it is, it's like there's this frame, there's this structure that's giving me permission to now you connect, now you be still, now you, oh, hi, Colin.
Colin.
but it's all the same.
Yeah, well, it kind of goes to the whole road rage thing too. Road rage is basically you not wanting to be where you are. And so you're pissed off that you're not where you want to be. And it could be because you got a screaming kid in the car. It could be because there's a bunch of traffic. It could be because the weather sucks. It could be because, you're late to the game, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, you are where you are. And you getting pissed off about it isn't going to change it.
Yeah.
It's just you making an unconscious or subconscious choice to be miserable, to be uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, ultimately, it's a choice, and you could choose to let it go. Like for me, I have a lot of unconscious stuff around chaos and noise, and so it becomes very difficult to me. But if I'm in my truck alone and I'm in traffic, I'm never bothered. Never bothered. But I do. But if someone's in there with me, my codependent comes out, and I'm like mad that I'm like holding up their experience, or like if Valhalla is screaming or something, then I'm mad that I'm dealing with that. So there's a lot that kicks me out of presence.
Yeah.
And it's a process. It's a practice. Don't take that too seriously either.
Yeah. So how do you find your way back?
Well, I'll move on to my breath. I'll feel my hands on the steering wheel. Like I'll be like, look, I'm having a human experience right now. I'll be in forgiveness, like pretty regular forgiveness, like in real time of what's happening. And what'll happen is I'll start to feel tight in my chest. I'll start to like, it's a very real somatic experience for me. So then I'll just like think of what would Stacy tell me, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'll laugh at how ridiculous it is. And then I'll get upset again, and it'll just be on and on and on. But it's a process. It's life. It's, to live is to feel pain. That's part, just like it's to experience, to live is to experience being able to love somebody individually, which you wouldn't get in oneness. You can't love somebody individually in oneness. They have to be individual. So that's a gift. Well, along with the gift comes the experience.
Yeah. Cool.
So I have a question for you.
What?
So you've read, let's say, 2,500 books, yeah?
I have no idea.
Well, you've read every personal growth book ever written.
No.
Let's just say that. Every single one.
Not everyone.
Yeah, right.
Probably
well, because 2 new ones came out this morning. What was the most impactful one to you? Why, and how do you apply it to your work in helping people?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a few, but probably the most impactful, partly because of I'd read quite a few authors and books in my early 20s. Like Deepak Chopra, Eckhart Tolle, Marianne Williamson, Wayne Dyer, a bunch of them. And it was all kind of like, when you just like haven't gotten it in your body yet, it's kind of here, and you're like, yeah, but you're not really like hooked. Well, when The Secret came out, it just set me on a path. It was like, I think one of the things that it was so great for was it spoke to our collective consciousness in a way that we were ready to hear. And for as many people that have sort of doused it or, oversimplified it to kind of fit whatever narrative, we all need to hear we're all at different stages, right? Everyone is able to hear something different at a different time. And that spoke to me in a way that I could hear at the time. And it set me on a path. And I found the teachings of Abraham Hicks from that. And those teachings, which is, they wrote The Law of Attraction and a bunch of other stuff, channeled by a woman, Esther Hicks. Those teachings were the ones that I really started to get in my body. And I started to understand things in a way that wasn't just like in my mind. It was like, I started to get it. So those books for sure have been the biggest or the most helpful in my personal evolution, and then probably inform the work that I do the most. I mean, I would say also Joe Dispenza's work has informed my work quite a bit, and many others. Yeah.
So The Secret and the Law of Attraction are essentially telling the same story. The Law of Attraction is a little more fun because of the backstory of how it happened. In the way that you would explain, how would you explain the Law of Attraction?
You create that which you are. You create. So the way I am in the world, and not just what I think, what I feel, what will fulfill me continuing feeling that way is I'm drawing back to myself, and I'm amplifying that. So how it's not just what I'm thinking, but it's how I'm feeling. It's the way I'm being in the world. So I'm showing up in the world. That is calling to me what's in my reality. So it's not that just which is likened unto itself is drawn in terms of like, oh, we're both the same. Like we're drawn to each other. Maybe not. But you make me feel a way that I've been feeling. So we're drawn together, right?
Okay, so I have a completely different way of explaining. This is what I'm saying. So you say it in like the super smart way. I say it in the dummy way.
Okay.
So the dummy way. Well, because I'm simple. It's not a dummy. It's simple. It's men are simple, and it's that which is attracts unto itself, and it shows up in our reality, materially, energetically, and everywhere. So if you look. Tall buildings are always with tall buildings. In fact, Layla's on this, and we went on a hike to Griffith Park, and I was looking out at the city, and I'm like, look, all those trees are the same, all those buildings are the same, all those expensive cars are with the expensive cars, and knowing about the energy, the way energy works, it's just energy attracting to itself, and so we talked about context earlier, and if your context, which is ultimately how you show up, how you feel, how you vibrate outward, is X, you will eventually bring in X, no matter what it is. So if you're an asshole, I've said this a million times, if you're an asshole, you are going to end up at an asshole party where people are mean and rude and etc. But if you're kind, willing, and open, eventually you're going to find yourself in a room full of those people. If you want to be rich, go where rich people go. Like you end up with what you are. It might not happen today, but it's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's you end up feeling the way you feel. You end up calling toward you what solidifies the way you are feeling.
Right.
It how do you say, validates it. It's like you continue to be validated in your perpetual state of feeling and being until you bring awareness to it and make a commitment to changing it if you want to change it. I don't think that's a dummy way of explaining it. I think that's a really good. I think you're really great at explaining things.
But I try. I think it's just like in our work, and you don't do this so much, but in our work, people tend to use woo-woo language, and they tend to, and you don't really do it, but like they tend to use words that sound really smart, and they do. And I try to go the other way because I want to make it something that anybody, when I was a kid, I had really, really, really bad ADD, and people would try to explain things to me and it just wouldn't land. And then I would have one person be like, look, let me tell you this like you're 6 years old. And when they told me like I was 6 years old, it made sense. It made me feel dumb because they had to tell me like I was 6 years old, but the point came across.
Yeah. And I think that's again, that's another reason why I think having many different voices is a great thing, because people need different voices. Not everyone can hear the same thing from the same person, or at this even different times in their journey, they need a different voice. So yeah. I kind of like doing this with things. So maybe I
you dance when you coach. Kind
of, yeah.
You're doing like Stevie Wonder stuff. It's cool.
Yeah.
I never seen anybody do that before.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible. So, what is your favorite type of person to work with?
Oh my gosh. I love working with people so much, and like all the flavors. But some commonalities probably are people who really value the work, who really are like in it, who they're like committed, and they get how incredibly transformative it can be, and they're just like in with you. And one of the reasons I love working with that type of person is because the impact and the results are so powerful, and it's just really fun to be on that journey and with them. And because it's a collaboration, when you have a party who is so willing and so into it, the collaboration is like kind of magnified. So I really, really love working with those types of people. I get a lot of artistic people in different ways, like different mediums, and really depthful people, which I love. But I love people. And sometimes the ones that you're like, ooh, I'm not sure if they're really taking me in the beginning, or I can't really tell. I've learned patience a lot too through working with people, and that it's not always what I think it should be. And sometimes through having patience and letting go of like my idea, then this like beautiful thing opens up, and that's really fun too.
Yeah.
What about
agree with you. I what I think is really impressive about the work that you've done is that your people stay with you for a really long time. It's very seldom that you have somebody come on for 6 months and stay for 6 months. And, I know a lot of the people that you work with because both of us, we don't treat the people we work with like they're someone on the other end. We bring them in and walk with them, and they become close to us. What I love about the work you do is the continuity, is that people stay, and they get value, and they add value. They add value to you. They give you value. Yeah,
absolutely, so much. Yeah, I love that too. I really, because there's so much more that can be found and discovered over time, and as you really relax into the container, it's just there's the trust deepens, it gets more and more fun. It's so fun. I really value those relationships. It just like makes my heart
full. I hear a lot of laughing through the walls for sure. For sure. I'm like, they're paying you to do this?
Isn't that great? You know what? I've looked back at lists that I've made. Actually, I did this like autobiography when I was in grade 7 as a school project, but also when I was transitioning careers, however many years ago that was, probably right around the time that we met. I made these lists of what am I good at? What do I love? And just like letting my mind be free with it, and writing everything, laughing, depthful conversations, like things that you would never think like, oh, this is a job. Now I'm actually, if I look at it, I'm like, a lot of these things are my job. So it's really, really cool when you open up your mind and you connect with how you want to experience your life, what you really love, what you're really great at, even if you think it's not like, oh, I'm great at math, I'm great at accounting, like just anything. The path that can take shape from that is really cool. And I've seen it with myself. I've seen it with clients too.
So that brings me to my next question. So it's very easy to intellectualize a concept, to bring it into your head, into your mindscape. We talk about attraction, we talk about, the feeling, but how do you coach people into actually connecting with the feeling versus, just intellectualizing it? Like, I'll talk about context, and pulling up a word, but to actually bring that into feeling it versus, knowing it. How do you coach to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it depends partly on the person, because some people are a lot more emotionally articulate than others, or they have a lot greater of a connection with their body than others. Like, a lot of people are disconnected from their body. And when you ask, how does that live in you, or where do you feel that? Some people just don't know right away. They haven't had that connection. So it could be just starting to build that connection and having them tune in to their bodies. But I think finding references is really powerful. What else makes you feel this way? Have you ever felt this? What was the context? What were you doing? What's the memory? When in your life do you feel this? What types of people are you around? Or, who do you get these reflections from that make you feel this way? I think references are really powerful, and finding those avenues and building on them, because it's like building muscles, right?
Right. That's interesting, because I have an easy time coaching it. I have a hard time connecting to it sometimes. I have a weird.
Go ahead.
I have this weird thing where I coach a lot of people, and they're like, "Yeah, my mind's going racing and all this thing," and I'm like, "Mine's blank, always blank."
Can't relate.
Blank. Like I'll coming in to do this live, right? Like, most people or doing a podcast. Like, most people are like, "Okay, what am I going to say?" I'm like, I don't fucking know. I just get up and whatever comes out of me comes out of me.
That's amazing. Yeah, I love that.
Well, but except if I'm working towards embodying a feeling, and I'm just blank all the time, that leads to, while it's spacious, it for me as a man, it can lead to a feeling of laziness, like I'm not doing anything, like nothing's happening, like there's a gaping hole there. Sometimes, for sure.
Interesting. So would you call it presence, or would you call it just like meh?
Well, it depends. Like, if I'm engaged with a client or a group, groups are really, really, like, when I'm at men's team, I'm there. I'm in. When I'm with a client, I'm there. If I have 5 minutes between clients, I'm completely checked out. Like, I'm a zombie. Like, I'll lose my keys from the couch to the desk because I'm just completely out.
Yeah, interesting. It sounds like when you have a built-in frame with something that is inspiring to you, that you are present with that energy of something that's lighting you up. And when you don't have, like, this is what we're doing, it's harder for you to connect with something that is inspired. Like, you need the thing, like, you need the mission.
Well, I'm a warrior. I mean, that's ultimately how I'm wired. And so without clear direction of what the mission is, what has happened historically, as you've seen, is that I create a war within myself. And so And so, I'll lose my context unless I'm in, it's row your boat. It's not sit in your boat. It's row your boat. And if I feel like I'm sitting in the boat or I'm a passenger, and it's not about control as much as it's about the doing, because I'm very good at human being. Very good. I could sit and I could just be, for sure. I'm real good at it.
Yeah.
But it's the integration of doing when, like I've been hobbled for 2 months now with this hernia thing, right? And so I haven't really been able to go to the gym. Well, taking that away from me has been an act of war on myself.
Yeah. Yeah. So you need a mission. It's finding the mission. And so what does it feel like when you're at the men's team or when you're sitting with a client? What's the feeling in you in that?
Well, it's interesting because it's a feeling of connection for sure. It's a feeling of purpose in both. I think purpose for me has, and it's the thing that I coach people most, and we talk about really early when we work together. The goal with men for sure is finding a way to match up your gifts. So it's identifying your gifts, your real gifts, not the thing that you fake, but the thing that's inherent to you that you've always had. And I say you've always had it because you see it show up like in our kids. We see their gifts really early. It's matching that up with purpose. And when you match those two things up, I think the battery gets charged because there's a battery from outside of you that comes in and charges you when you feel aligned in that. At least for me. And so, like when I was working at the car dealership, it was very artificial. It was very much I just got to win, but it was only charged by winning. That's not true. It was charged by winning, and actually maybe even more so not losing. Jamie asked us a question once, which was, "Are you more of a love to win or a hate to lose?" And I'm a hate to lose more than a love to win. Historically, it's evolved. It's evolved for sure into a little bit more of a love to win, but I don't like to lose.
Yeah,
I'm a shit loser. So that motivated me when I was in that arena, and it made me really good, but it also made me a dick because it was first of all, being a dick in that business is actually kind of celebrated while on the brand, but individually, you're alienating people and you're alienating yourself from yourself. So, it's about a mission for sure. And it's about finding a mission that really resonates for me.
Yeah. So how are you working with yourself in that arena?
Well, I think, actually doing these lives is really, I feel that feeling when I do these lives, and I've committed in 24 after the surgery, which I'm having tomorrow. I've committed to starting a podcast because anytime I've been in that arena, I feel very, I talk about lighting torches. I feel like my torch is very lit, and that allows me to go to the next station in life and light someone else's torch and bring kindness and then my goal's never been just about me. My mission's never been just about me. And it's never been aimed at financial. It's been aimed at how I can help the collective. And the financial will take care of itself. That's always been how I operate. So if I get charged from here and then I go, to Walgreens and I start talking to the Walgreens guy, it's like, oh yeah. Well, he's going to go to the next guy and he's like, dude, you should have seen this dude I met, like that to me is really valuable.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's really valuable.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.